Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany. Welcome back, or welcome if you've never been here before, and welcome to the announcement of the KU Readathon. I am so excited about this Kindle Unlimited Readathon. I think it's going to be a great way to kick off a new reading year. I cannot wait to get through all of the books that I've been putting off. This is an idea that we all came up with after group therapy reading sprints. The Readathon is going to be from January 26th to the 29th. I will be hosting along with Cheyenne from That Tall Book Girl, Melissa from Book Bar, Jess from Honest Fiction, Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life, and Sam from Sam Reads a Little. And if you do not know, Kindle Unlimited is a subscription service through Amazon where you can check out up to 20 books at a time. It is really where I get the majority of my reading in. I have been introduced to a ton of new authors through Kindle Unlimited, and I am so excited to clear up some of the reads that have been holding down spots for a while, okay? This readathon is going to have a build your own board, which is honestly my favorite. You can fill it in however you'd like, and the prompts are varied, so I have no doubt that you're going to be able to get a blackout. And I do love a segue, so let's just go over the prompts while we're here. Love that for me. That was seamless, wasn't it? And I think I'll wrap up with some recommendations. I'll try to make it short and sweet. I do have a stack for you though. So very quickly, the prompts for this readathon are going to be new to you author, favorite genre or trope, series you've been putting off, a debut author, tattooed heroes, tortured heroes, love to see it, book under 250 pages, you know I'm gonna get that in, book in your library the longest. That's always fun to see. I cannot wait to see those. A tome over 400 pages. I know we all read different things. Some of us avid fantasy readers may not see 400 pages as a lot, but I think this is gonna be a great way to get, you know, one of those reads in that's over 320, 350 pages. You can knock out a spot. Ends in a cliffhanger. I definitely have a couple of those. Give an author a second chance. That actually came from Jess. I hope she doesn't mind me sharing that. I thought that was really great, as well as debut author. Those are great. Anyway, I'm sorry. Continuing, book recommended by a friend. This video will suffice, as well as all of our videos that should be coming out today. And book you didn't get to last year. I mean, come on. Black out this board, LGBTQ, and own voices. So I'm very excited. The book that I would like to start out in terms of a recommendation is gonna knock out a lot of prompts. And I don't think we should be surprised by this. That is Restore Me by JL Seegars, okay? This is a love after loss, enemies to lovers between Sloane and her late husband's best friend. Oh. He also can be considered a tortured hero because there are some mysteries and reveals on their meet cute, and she's forced into proximity with Dominic 4 years after the loss of her husband, and really over 10 years of his disdain for her, which he feigns in order to mask his freaking utter devotion, obsession, and love for her. This, the way that she puts words to longing in this book, I absolutely loved this. Their dynamic really shifts after a chivalrous moment, and that spawns into an arrangement between them of a sexy sort of variety. And like I said, the reveals on his devotion, their meet cute, the childhood trauma that they uncover. This is already a favorite read, okay? And just like general. So I'm definitely recommending it. This is going to be considered a tome. This will be a new to you author if you have not started this series, and if you haven't read her novella again, which I also recommend. That's a second chance for a divorced couple who's forced into proximity at a resort where they're celebrating their best friend's wedding. And the way that she can draft you into their storied past through a freaking glance in that novella. I mean, the writing just tracks. So I definitely recommend that novella. But if you haven't read that or started this series, she will be a new to you author. This is also Own Voices, being that this is a Black romance. This is recommended by me. I mean, we're just ticking off the boxes here. And then there's another hidden prompt that I won't share that you can find. So definitely the way to start this video, okay? I'm also going to recommend Funny Feelings by Tara Dewitt. This is a friends to lovers, single dad, age gap romance with all of the freaking feels. The writing in this is so smart. It's cutting in their vulnerability with one another. They are both comedians. Mayor is Farley's manager. Farley's comedic career is on the rise, and there are a group of female comedians that want her to join their tour, but in order to drum up press on it, they suggest that she fake dates. And that's where Mayor steps in, and the mutual pining between them and the shorthand. I absolutely loved this. He is a single dad that's just struggling to keep everything afloat and be the best that he can for his daughter, who is deaf. And the relationship that Farley has with her is just stand out. It's also a reason why they don't want to overstep. I love the secret pining in this, because over the course of them fake dating for this tour, their way of coming to be in terms of each other's true life partner is uncovered, and it really amplifies the pining between them. I feel like this is tied up like a freaking French braid in terms of the sentiment and the swoon and the declarations and the devotion. Like, I absolutely loved this. And Farley is such a relatable heroine. It is a must read, full stop. Next, in terms of tortured heroes, I definitely want to recommend this, especially if you're a person that read Pen Pal and you wanted a little more romance. I think that Midnight Valentine by J.T Geissinger should be the fit for you. This is a small town romance where the heroine is starting over, and it's 4 years after she's lost her husband. She's finally ready to open up the bed and breakfast that they dreamed of. And this does sort of have a bit of a possible reincarnation trope. When she arrives, she has a meet cute with the grumpy Theo. He is scarred and speechless after an accident, a grump, and this meet cute is really one of a heated and stern gaze, one that pisses her off and also makes her reluctant to hire him to help, you know, with all of the more than need of TLC when it comes to the Victorian home that she bought. She does not want to hire him after this exchange, and yet he's the best at what he does. And the, I'll say, whimsical reveals on why he is able to, I don't know what she wants for this property down to the literal blueprint, why his presence feels familiar, why some of the phrases are very similar to her husband's, why their chemistry is just so freaking electric, and why he is desperate and hell-bent and pushing her away. Oh, all of it was very compelling. This is a very fun and intriguing read. The heroine has this sort of sarcasm of survival that I loved, and our hero is strong enough to handle her strength and really her reluctance. He just kind of is the kind of hero that suits up and shows up and is constantly taunting her with their connection by being in her face. I loved this book. Definitely recommend if you wanted something different from Pen Pal. I think you might get it from this. I also, I'm going to refer to my phone because I don't want to miss anything. I knew it. I don't want to fail to mention Axel in Heaven by Francesca Penn. This is fun if you want some travel vibes, okay? Our heroine was jilted at the altar, so she travels to Hawaii to not only hide out, but just to recharge and get away. And unbeknownst to her, the same resort that she's staying at is where her ex-fiance is there with his new one. And our hero, Axel, like emerges from the freaking ocean like a freaking Viking and saves her by pretending to be her boyfriend, and they fake date throughout her stay. And the way that he treats her and empowers her with his care is just stand out to me. This is also absolutely hilarious, and I just loved to see her win in this, to see her advocate for herself in a time where she's harboring a lot of shame for the failure of that relationship, and the way that she reclaims her voice and what she garners bonkers, okay? Just from his affection and him loving everything about her just as she is. I loved that. It also gets a little bonkers in the third act, and we get to see if their relationship will last off the island. Loved it. That was a lot of fun. Definitely recommend. And moving on here, I also want to mention The Surviving Trace by Calia Reed. This is definitely a tortured hero. This is a historical time travel romance where the heroine owns an antique shop and she finds this mysterious photograph and travels into it into 1912, where she learns that she is married in a marriage in trouble and is tasked with convincing her husband in the past that she is not of their time so she can get back to her fiance in the future. And I just loved this slow burn between them. This hero is tortured because he has a slow descent in falling for the way that she sees him, validates him, his legacy, reanimates his home, all while donning the face of a woman that hurt him so much. And I also love how this romance really gets her to reflect on the life that she settled for in the future and the quagmires of travel. I was riveted. This is really compelling. It also does end in a cliffhanger. There's a resolution on the romance, okay, but it ends in a cliffhanger as to how the time travel works. And so that's also a prompt that this will hit. It's also a tome for this readathon, and it's one that I'm probably going to go back to because I absolutely loved this romance, okay? I read it for a vlog. Next, for tortured heroes as well, I have Craving Khiva by Zoey Draven. This was a favorite of last year, which I promise by the end of the month you will be getting that video. Anyway, this is an alien romance between a curvy heroine that's a bit of a wallflower on her planet. She's not the ideal beauty, and she is set out to have an experience after losing her father because she feels as if she doesn't, she is going to remain a spinster in the home that he left her. And so she is planning to lose her virginity and seeks out the aid of this elite brothel, which is where she meets Khiva, who is an exploited sex worker, and his species is known for pleasure services because of their spin having the ability to give multiple orgasms until it's washed off, you know, but it's incessant. And when she meets Khiva, their meet cute is just one where he is for once treated like a being and not just a body. He is patient with her and gentle and unnervingly drawn. And it is a bit of a sensory experience between them. One, of course, she wants more of, so she continues to book sessions. And over the course of these sessions with him, she learns of his true plight and of his people and aims to help him garner freedom. And it is just more than I was anticipating. I was expecting like a, you know, fun alien romp, and this just delivered on the plot. The stakes are high. It's literally everything, and I'm continuing to make my way through the series. I'll probably pick this up as well. Next, I have, if you're looking for something a little bit more dark and heady, I would go with Call the Coroner by Avril Ashton. This is an MM, so it will work for the LGBTQ prompt. Mafia romance. It's also captive, okay? And Daniel is definitely a tortured hero, being that he is hell-bent on making the murderer of his wife pay. So he kidnaps Stavros, which is an incredible feat. Okay, I'm just gonna add, because Stavros is a lethal boogeyman, okay, for all within the mafia. And Daniel ends up becoming captive himself by his feelings for Stavros. And the intrigue, the sexual tension between them that he cannot explain, when he's coupling it with the guilt and almost duty of seeking vengeance for the death of his late wife. And this was just bonkers, and the romance is quite dangerous for him, being that we are in a traditional landscape of the mafia, and quite frankly, their play is dangerous, okay? These are like two brilliant, lethal mafia men that just can't get enough of one another and are willing to take the plunge. So I definitely recommend this. It is dark. I'm just gonna warn you. Next, I have Folsom by Tarryn Fisher and Willow Asher. Okay, I have to put this book on here because it is wild. The premise, this is a dystopian world, okay, set in a time where men are almost literally extinct. Okay, this is a part of their M.M series, and I will say that is a series that they did not finish. There are only 2, so that's the first disclaimer, okay? And the first book, Folsom, that I'm recommending does end in a cliffhanger, not when it comes to the romance, but in the overall plot within the series, and you can pick that up in Jackal, which is in the second book. But Folsom is one of 12 Endmen who are tasked with sexually servicing the populace in order to save procreation. They are celebrities within this world. I mean, they are doing the work. They're really essentially indentured to the government. And this has left Folsom feeling weary and alienated. And when he meets Gwen, she's the first woman that cares about him as a man. She's not at all interested in what he can do for her in terms of his sperm, because he gets a lot of that. She's not interested in the gloss in terms of his celebrity. And she's very much interested in helping him once she figures out the tenuous tethers that he has to their government and what the government is actually doing, which is not much for the people. Love this. It's action-packed. I was riveted. The freaking concept is wild. I mean, this is the time to pick up something like this. It's 277 pages. It's not that long. It's bonkers. It's a lot of fun. It does end on a cliffhanger, so that is another prompt. But this was just like, I was gobsmacked, okay? I just love these very unique and bonkers premises. This is definitely one if you're looking for something like that. Next, we're gonna move into books that are under 250 pages, which I completely whittled down. We do not have time for all of that. I have an entire video dedicated on shorties with girth, you know, short books that are packing a lot of story. I do want to mention Haven by Claire Kent. This is a post-apocalyptic romance set after a global catastrophe. And I do kind of want to call it a friends to lovers, being that we're following a hero and heroine that are running a sort of camp of refuge. And our hero Jackson was taken in by the heroine's parents as a troubled youth, and now he's sort of her right-hand man in womaning, okay, this camp and being very grumpy and stern when it comes to making pivotal survival decisions in this wasteland. And they are each other's true survival partners in life, and they are primal urge partners at night. And it really hasn't gone past that until we begin this romance. And it just felt like the declarations in this book were hard won. The stakes are extremely high. There is an emotional impact that is felt between them, and I absolutely loved it. It's like a must-read novella. Definitely. Next, for 150 pages, I have got to mention Duplication by M.M Wakeford. I will say that this is the second in the series. I have the first here. Ooh, we're doing a lot. We're doing a lot. I have the first in the series, Liberation, which is centered around a BDSM club that is founded by a group of friends. And this group of friends has a very unconventional and just like free-loving philosophy. They're everything to one another, as well as bedfellows. And the hero in this is sort of like weary because his friend group has moved on to the next stage of development within their lives, and they're seeking out partners. I apologize if you've been here for any length of time. I'm sure you know what happened. But the hero in this book has grown weary and he's ready for a romance in his life, which is how Hannah enters the chat. But the second in the series is tied to the first, yet it is set in a dimension that is a mirror to ours, yet very counter when it comes to cultural beliefs. So this is a hedonistic society that is one of free love and it's pleasure focused. Our hero Dominic is traveling from our world as a diplomat into Layla's world, where she will be hosting him and his team and getting them up to speed to how they do things, being that they're going to be undercover, and this is sort of the jumping off point to a potential travel program. And I absolutely loved this. I mean, I was a little shook, okay, by these customs, being that, as I've said on Instagram and in my weekly wrap up, which you'll be getting a second one, I apologize, that this was a world where like nudity is the fashion, okay? And assuaging one's primal urges is akin to getting a cup of coffee. And so there's a lot for Dominic to get used to, and there are a lot of stimulating social conversations between them and their differing beliefs on monogamy and how there can be children involved in a society like this. It's very, very compelling. And the quagmires of interdimensional travel just got me. It's also, ironically, a slow burn between them. They don't jump right into it, even though they're in this hyper-sexualized environment, because Dominic wants it to have meaning. And the third act of separation that is external, it is not internal, really gripped me. So I absolutely loved this. It was incredibly unique. It is sci-fi and it is strange in the best possible way. So I have to recommend this novella. And I will say you could read this out of order. You could read this as a standalone. There is a small tie-in to Liberation. And if you have not read this book, you're not going to be lost. But I definitely think that you should pick this up if you have the time during this readathon. I mean, this is the time to like do it. This is the time to pick up reads like that. So next, referring to my phone here, I have... we're moving into books that are under 250 pages, but they're also LGBTQ. And I have to mention Baylin Crow's Sugarland Saint series. Quarterback Sneak is the first in that series. And these are all M.M sports romances that I'm absolutely obsessed with. They are delicious. They're hitting long strokes when it comes to story. In the first one, we're following Rush and Tarryn. This is a friends to lovers where they start out on the same football team in high school. They have a sort of experimental evening, which is illuminating for Tarryn and highlights his, secret and really just feelings that he has for Rush that he doesn't quite understand yet. There's a pin put on their romantic relationship due to a family trauma that Rush sustains. And so we pick up with them as they're in college. This is new adult. And Tarryn is done being friend zoned. And so he's sort of baiting Rush, which Rush doesn't quite understand. And it's their romance. It's delicious. I love a friends to lovers. I'm always talking about that shorthand because they have this knowing between them. And the dynamic of romance being added to that is just, it's so freaking delicious. And I love how Tarryn just cannot withstand another moment of not exploring what is between them. It is just so good. I also want to mention Ashley Bennett's Leviathan Fitness series. That is a series that was introduced to me by Caitlin from the Love Librarian. I absolutely love it. They're not all MM, excuse me. The second is an MM, but they're all monster romances. And it's set in this world where humans and monsters are newly integrating. Everyone's curious and coupling. And they're just sweet, sexy, and swoony. The first in this series follows a curvy baker, who has a chivalrous meet cute with the wolf that's opening Leviathan Fitness across the street. And this really captures the elation of a crush between them. They are forced into proximity because they're training with one another, and I absolutely loved it. The second in the series follows her brother and Cyrus, who is helping Reese train for a triathlon, and I absolutely loved Cyrus. He is such a swoony and sweet hero. He's an artist. Absolutely love that. So I have to mention that. For LGBTQ, I also want to mention, this is going to serve as a cliffhanger. There's a resolution on the romance, but this is also dark. I'm talking all of the trigger warnings: sexual assault, self-mutilation, child molestation, all descriptively depicted on the page. one of our heroines is dealing with a lot of mental health and trauma, and that is The Madhouse by Liza James. This is a sapphic step-sibling romance, obviously forbidden, where Fee is just getting out of the mental hospital after killing their parents. She has been estranged from Cedar. She harbors a lot of resentment against Cedar for leaving her in the egregious, perilous situation that was their upbringing. And Cedar takes her in, and there is just an incredible, arduous road of healing that Fee is going to have to undergo. And so the way that Liza James makes this romance work, I just thought was masterful. This is also kind of read like a bit of religious horror, I will say. And like I said, this has all of the trigger warnings, but I completely bought this romance and it just fascinated me. Definitely pick this one up. And I think I'm gonna cap off with just doing rapid fire of series that, you know, you may have not gotten to. That is a prompt. I have to mention Wolf Gone Wild by Juliette Cross, the Stay a Spell series. I love the Savoy sisters. They are a coven of witches from New Orleans and Juliette's French Quarter. It starts out with Evie and Mateo. Mateo is a wolf that cannot shift. And that means that his alpha is very loud. I love that alpha is his own character in this book, stylistically in terms of the formatting that's showcased. And I love the audiobooks for this. And Evie is known to be a hexbreaker, yet witches and werewolves don't work together. So it's also kind of forbidden. I loved this. If you have not read Amara Rae's Immortal Coven series, I definitely suggest that you do. This is your opportunity. I will say that Hydrus is really where it picks up because she's laying a lot of groundwork. This is a coven of hybrid witches, and in this world that's sort of forbidden. And they are up against this really corrupt council of witches. All of these heroines are strong. All of the heroes are gone for them and freaking alphas. These are fated mate tales. And I also love the social commentary in this series. It's just standout. I suggest that you pick it up. I also cannot leave without mentioning, we will close out with this, and I have to thank Crystal for this book, Kimberly Lemming's Mishap Meet series. I love these. These are short. I think these also will suffice as under 250 pages. This is a fantasy romance series that doesn't take itself too seriously. I always say this because these are absolutely hilarious. The heroes are freaking monstrous and paranormal. They're alphas, they're gone for their heroines, and the heroines are reluctant to fall. They're all strong, they're not checking for love. They are not looking to go on these quests that they find themselves on. They're packed with adventure, a lot of side characters that I fell in love with. In the first one, we're going on a, again, reluctant quest after she breaks the hero Fallon's curse. I won't reveal what he is because that's a great moment within this series. But I also like how these handle some heavier themes in the first, enslavement, and the second, she makes the topic of consent sexy with a really light hand. And so I just think that these are absolutely fun. You will meet the sword Alexis, who's one of my favorite fantasy characters, okay? She is just so crass and bold and hilarious, and I love her. She says everything that one would be thinking or hope to. If I could invite anyone from one of my books to a dinner, it would be Alexis. I'd be going out with Alexis and Sloane from J.T Geisinger's Queens and Monsters, and maybe Raina as well. But I'm going to wrap up my recommendations there. I hope you can join us for the readathon. I'm so excited. It's always a fun way for me to meet new people. I love seeing what everybody is reading. I get a ton of recommendations. So the TBR will still be endless. I will be hosting reading sprints on my channel on the 28th at noon. And then the live show is going to be on Crystal's channel on the 29th at 5 p.m. MST. So I hope you can join us. Thank you for joining me. Please consider subscribing and sticking around, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm getting that weekly wrap up out. Okay, I promise. Bye.